And today we're going to be talking about chapter 3 with Alison Armstrong, and she's going to be adding even more to what the chapter has, which is really exciting. And we've got a lot of
Yeah, and just Paige, so you know, for your timeline, I have like 3 minutes on emasculation and objectification, which is an important part of this chapter. And then I probably have 3 more minutes on customizing your vow, which is an evolution that's happened since the Queen's Code was originally published. And it's very exciting. I love that part. So if you just reserve that, I'll just leave it in your hands, be of service. You ask questions, you know when you're ready to call on people.
And I do want to, when do you want to share those parts? Do you want it at the beginning or the end, or at what part?
They might show up naturally in the questions being asked. And if not, then at the end is fine.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, let's begin with the first question that I got. That I love is from one of the men in the group who has a really wonderful relationship with his wife, and he feels sometimes like she mothers him, and that feels emasculating to him. But he doesn't know how to bring it up to her because he doesn't want to hurt her feelings. So it's just like real. And how do men get to express and say, hey, like that just felt emasculating out, that, and how do we even, and I'll throw in, how do women say, I love how you say ouch, or in the book she says ouch, like just a immediate feedback. But how can a man approach his wife in a way that doesn't hurt her or offend her or just hurt her feelings if she's emasculating him?
Yeah, I can answer that. I would say one thing ahead of that, and I'll probably keep saying this every week, one way or another. If you can recognize that most of what women do is out of fear or frustration, or fear and frustration. And mothering is definitely a fear-generated thing that we do. We get antsy that something's going to happen, something's going to go wrong, and we don't know how to translate that into grown-up relationships. So like we know, we went outside, we know it's cold outside. So honey, take a sweater, honey, take a jacket. And yeah. I'd have to catch myself, and pardon the language, but I keep thinking he's a grown-ass man. He's a grown-ass man. He knows, he can tell the weather. He knows whether he needs a jacket or not, or we'd rather have a sweater, or he knows what he's just going to be driving around the car and he doesn't care. Like, he's not a child. He's not a child that can't read the signs and can't prepare. And I just stop, right? Just back off. So that's one thing you can do on your own, is if you understand that it's from fear, you can either just, isn't it cute? She's afraid I'm going to be cold. Like you don't have to be emasculated by it. Just because you treat like a child, you don't have to accept being treated like a child. You can just go, okay, she's afraid I'll be cold. Honey, it would be all right with me if you never told me that again, because I'm grown up and I can tell what I need. And I've never frozen to death. Have you noticed that? And so you can just be straight about it. Now, we're always hurting people's feelings. And it's a justifiable fear in being afraid of hurting a woman's feelings, because if we're hurt and we don't get to say ouch, and we get to say, I'm sorry, I hurt your feelings, it can turn into the rage monster, which you can see on YouTube if you want. Just look up Alison Armstrong rage monster. So it's a fair thing to be concerned about. But when we start doing things or not doing things to avoid hurting people's feelings, it's the beginning of a downward spiral. Because what we call it in our paradigm, we call them clues, warm clues and cold clues. And we have so much attachment and only being encouraging, or some people only being critical. They'll never say someone's doing a good job, or baby, that was hot, you hit it 100%. They'll never give that up. And you'll hear more about this as you go along in the book, although Claudia doesn't call them clues. And so, like, to say something to your wife like that, you can even set it up, honey, I don't want to hurt your feelings. And if this does hurt your feelings, just tell me and I'll say, I'm sorry. And I'm even sorry in advance if this hurts your feelings. And maybe could you catch yourself when you're gonna, like, tell me what to wear, or reach over and dab the side of my face to get the crumbs.
Or just asking, like, are you okay all the time, right? It's like an over motherly kind of, are you okay? And checking in a way that feels like I'm a child and you're treating me like a child, right? So to just, for a guy to say, hey, I'm okay, I love you.
I know it can feel that way, but women do that because we can't not monitor the people in our environment, their mental, physical, and energetic states of being. And it's almost impossible to not take it personally. So the are you okay is really, are we okay? But that's much more vulnerable. That's much more exposed. But the question really is, are we okay? Or are you mad at me? Are you grumpy about me? Are you frustrated with me? Because that puts us on edge. And again, these are things that we teach in Understanding Women, and well worth it. But what I hope for you as men in the Queen's Code is, by not that you have to be on a campaign for the people around you to stop doing everything emasculating. And you can if you want, but you'll be much more powerful if instead, by seeing where it comes from, the misunderstandings it's based in, the misinterpretations it's based in, the misperceptions it's based in, that it's not coming from a factual place, and it's generated by fear and frustration. And you can just go, hold on a second, honey, what do you need? Like, just address the heart of it. Honey, what are you afraid of? Honey, what are you worried about? Instead of trying to get her to stop asking that, because she doesn't have an alternative yet.
I love that. It's A, explaining why she's doing it, and then B, giving a beautiful way of responding that's not going to, this is what's so beautiful about it. It's like going into the curiosity in the conversations rather than in the misbehaving. Like, you're doing it wrong. It's like, oh, I wonder why you're doing that. And then just that illumination, like, oh, that's just, that is the question. And it's so interesting. I was saying, like, if someone says, oh, like, the food is too hot. It's like, oh, you're saying that I made the food too hot and I didn't do it right. Like, women just take everything, no matter what you say. Like, the sky is blue. Like, oh, you want me to, I forgot to get you your sunglasses. So what is with women making themselves wrong all the time? And then no wonder we're making our partners wrong all the time. But
yeah. And then we turn into puddles because we can't take even a hint of criticism. And so for the men, I'm going to just put this in man speak. It'll show up later in the book. If you want to go to the heart of solving the problem, which the problem is fear and frustration. Honey, what are you afraid of? Honey, are you frustrated by something? Then you can just go to the heart of the matter. And it'll take so much less effort and be so much more worth it than trying to get her to stop doing an instinctual behavior that is born out of fear and frustration. Those are so hard to stop. But if you go to the heart of the matter, it can just kind of fall apart. And you can then even have a conversation maybe at another time when the heat's not so turned up. Honey, when you ask me those questions and I feel diminished by it, or I could feel diminished by it, what would be the best thing to say to you? That I'm good and we're good and this frustration isn't about you. What's the best way for me to let you know that? Yeah. And in all likelihood, something else we teach in Understanding Women, in all likelihood, it will involve touch. It will involve like taking her hand, because that's what captures our attention. And it's also reassuring. Like, you know, Claudia keeps commenting on the reassurance of touch, right, at the table with Kimberly and Karen. So taking her hand, honey, we're good. What do you need from me to know we're good? And I'm fine. Oh, yeah. And she might burst into tears just because of the relief. It doesn't mean you made it worse. It's probably relief. Just hold her. You want to cry it out?
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Okay, so this is a question that I'm dying to hear your response to, and there's so many. I love how in the book you keep saying how the ladies like feel this pain in their stomach, or this punch to the gut, or I feel like throwing up, or I felt this sickness. And I've heard from several of the people in this group that have been like, this has been so triggering. I feel sick. I'm so like, this is upsetting. Like, we feel it in our body. There's this reaction to chapter 3, you know? And I just wanted you to speak to that. Like, what is this physical reaction that we get to the realization of emasculation, but also the defensiveness that we feel? Like, am I just saying that his behavior of like, because some of the stuff like in the book, you'll even hear some of the stuff that Melissa's husband says, like, it's just not okay, right? So men do things that are just not okay. And so I love how you say in the book, like, giving up the right to emasculate does not mean that you're giving up the right to protect yourself. And how do we play with this idea of like, how much are we just making them right? How much? And I have my own response to all of this, but I'm really curious how you respond to this, because I'm sure after writing the Queen's Code, you get a lot of people almost on the attack on these concepts. Am I right? Because I've even had people attack, like, this makes me so angry, you know? Like this material. Okay, go. I'm not going to interrupt you.
I'm just waiting till you're done. I was waiting for the well. These skills work with men, women, young people. It's just not just for men. So I know in the beginning, so like when we started our workshop in 1995, my husband's best friend's wife was quoted as saying, "Oh, that's the workshop where you give up all your power." And it was sad to me because I watched her regularly publicly emasculate her husband. And I mean publicly, like in front of 200 people. Virtually every week, she would emasculate her husband in front of a couple hundred people. And he just ate it. And as Kimberly and Karen will attest to, and as your own lives may attest to, no, this is giving up the right to steal power. This is actually claiming our own power, that we don't need to weaken men. We don't need to. We're awesome. We're awesome. And we have power in so many domains, whether you want to call them masculine or feminine. We have access to all of it. And we don't need to interact at such a low level, especially since it's most of it's not based on truth. It's based on as compared to the perfect person, the female-based perfect person. It's not actually happening, which is why it's so hard to hold men to account for it. I know you did this because you don't respect me. And they'll be like, what? I know you don't respect me. Huh? And we'll try to hold them to account for our conclusions. And they won't be, because they're not true. And we're sure they are true, but they're dodging. What if he doesn't do things because he doesn't love or respect or care about you? That what he does isn't driven by those things the way that we think. And you'll find out how Karen gets her trash taken out, and you'll find out about the open garage door when she comes home. All these things are going to have their own moment in time. And if people are attacking me, Paige, it's been a couple decades since they did it to my face. So, yeah, I don't read what people say about me, like in social media. Or I was advised a long time ago when the San Francisco Chronicle called me, the relationships guru, and, felt sorry for Robin Quivers that she spent the weekend with Alison Armstrong, the relationship guru, and now she's given up the right to emasculate men. Oh, no. Don't let Robin Quivers, Howard Stern's sidekick, give up her power. That was the last article I read. And because Robin certainly didn't experience that way. But it's like Melissa and Kimberly, how far apart their worlds are is going to become more and more and more obvious. And one way to think about this, if you want to, is I started learning and operating in a different normal paradigm when I was 20 years old. And I spent more than a decade in that paradigm, the paradigm of personal responsibility and cause and the matter and integrity. And it hugely shaped who I am. But what I learned there was incredibly valuable in the domain of productivity. And the results that I was able to produce by the time I was 30 years old were astonishing. And they didn't work in the domain of being connected and related and what I would call the love bubble, right? The being in love, the experience of being in love, and it's fragile. And it didn't work. It didn't work there. And then when I started studying men, and then by inference women, I found out a whole new set of things that worked. And so you could say the Queen's Code is a different paradigm. And what Claudia is teaching is a different paradigm. And the easiest way to understand paradigms is there like a matrix of rules and premises and principles, and every paradigm has things it gives easy access to and has things it cuts off access to. So in the paradigm of the Queen's Code, being loved, cherished, admired, appreciated, supported, those things become easy. But what's disallowed in this paradigm is righteousness and a huge belief in the accuracy of your perceptions. And that's the cost. The paradigm of the Queen's Code costs self-righteousness. It costs absolute trust in the way that I see it is the way that it is. What I feel is an accurate representation of truth. And that's mostly what people traffic in our normal, in the normal of our cultures. And to me, I was gladly willing to pay the price I'd rather be wrong and happy, wrong and in love, wrong and fulfilled, wrong and cherished. And I mean, I was in this course this weekend, co-leading this course this weekend. And one of the questions was, as you're escalating your pressure that comes from your body to have the person understand that what you're asking for matters to them, what is the quality that you want someone to feel your pressure at? Like, what do you want it to feel like? Like a couple women, they want it to feel like compassion, and others as freedom and respect. And my boyfriend was in the course, and I asked him, okay, so in a romantic context, how do you want your pressure to arrive? And he said, as appreciation and adoration. Like, you're talking about me. He wants to make sure I'm understanding what matters to him, and that it arrives as appreciation and adoration of me. Dang, that's a good life. I'll be signing up for that anytime.
Yeah.
So
well, just one thought on that is like, so much of this is, there's so much to receive. It's almost like an analogy that I heard was, it's like someone saying, you want to go to this concert, it's going to be absolutely amazing, and it's $1,000 or something, and you're like, well, I think that I don't like that price, and you're like, well, okay, but do you want the ticket, right? Like, this is the best concert you'll ever be to, and do you want to go or not? Like, we can complain about the price. Mm-hmm. We can say, oh, this price makes me angry, or like, this is frustrating, or like, this is triggering for me. But do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Do you want to be like, are you willing to pay the price to get this promised? Maybe it's not a concert, it's like the most amazing trip around the world, right? Like, it's seriously the most amazing thing. And this is the key to it. But we can spend so much time. And I think sometimes we can get caught up in like complaining about the price, or saying, or getting all hung up like, this is too high a price. But what if you just, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing, and then I want to go back to the sick to the stomach.
Yeah, that's okay. Awesome.
But the people who are complaining about the price haven't been at the concert yet.
Yeah. So we have to tell them about the concert a little more, I think.
Well, or yeah, I mean, or just allow people to go through their process. I mean, I've literally had people tell me, I've had the Queen's Code on my bookshelf since it came out. And every time I looked at it, I cursed you. And finally, something happened in my life that had me pick it up and read it. Oh my gosh. And people are just ready when they're ready. And some people, their ready isn't going to show up in this lifetime. And it's just not our job. Our job is this one. And so I want to address the thing about sick to your stomach. And I invite you to take it as a good sign, because it's called shame. And shame is something that only honorable people feel. Only honorable people feel shame when they think or when they realize that they've harmed somebody, including harmed themselves. And I learned this from men, and men think that they feel shame because they're dishonorable. No, they feel shame because they're an honorable person who has betrayed their own values. And that shame is a holding oneself to account. And part of what's tricky about the Queen's Code is many of the values that we have of kindness and compassion and generosity and understanding and honoring even, we haven't had access to them because of our perceptions, because of we've got hairy, misbehaving women. And so we've been stuck in this cycle of interacting with men that's not congruent with at the heart of the matter, this sense of their goodness, of their magnificence. that we've always known.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've always known we're hurting somebody, and that would drive
Sorry. I don't know why that person went off mute. Hold on. Everyone make sure you're on mute here. I'll try.
I invite you to recheck your settings.
That they can't unmute. I can set it so they can't unmute themselves ever.
Yeah, unless they're invited to.
Okay.
The only way I can do something with a couple hundred people at the same time, I have to ask them to unmute before they can unmute. And they have to unmute themselves. I can't just pop into their house.
I'll fix that for next week.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to the thing about customizing the vow because it's relevant to this. So the Queen's Code is a secret code, right? Like the words and where you have to come from for them to work. And it's a code of honor. It's inviting women into a code of honor. And one of the things I learned from men is being honorable means doing the right thing no matter how you feel. And this is extremely hard for us because how we feel seems to be telling us the truth. And we will be mad at ourselves for disregarding our feelings, ignoring our feelings. And men, the closest thing that you have to identify with this is your gut feeling. Men will be upset with themselves for ignoring a gut feeling, which is interesting because research has shown there are as many, there's as much brain in the gut as there is in the head. And in fact, there's more information that goes from the gut to the head than the head to the gut. So but it's hard for them to understand how real our feelings are to us. And so one of the things I invite you to do is create your own code of honor, what you're going to do no matter how you feel. And this is a level of interacting in life that is, whoa, like what it makes possible is extraordinary. But we don't get to always trust our feelings, which is a nice fantasy world to live in, but to start questioning and sorting them. And I do something called I sort emotions and feelings, and it seems like instead of it feels like. And but you can, and I invite you to do this instead of just I give up the right to emasculate men forever. I give up the right to castrate men forever. That you get to customize your own vow and create your own code of honor. Like I know a woman who what she created was I give up the right to emasculate men, even when they've hurt my feelings. I give up the right to emasculate men, even when they disagreed with me. I've given up the right to emasculate men, especially my brother. Like call out someone that drives them especially over the edge, and literally creating their own code of honor that in this pledge is not subject to how I feel. This is a pledge no matter how I feel. And it doesn't mean you dishonor your feelings. You end up figuring out how to hold both in the same place and not react to your feelings, at least not in this way, but then look to the truth of it for yourself. And it seems like you're saying that to me because you don't respect me. Oh, honey, what makes it seem like that? You know, when it feels like you don't respect me, men are just trumped. I can't control how you feel. When we say it seems like you don't respect me, what did I do that made it seem like that? I want to fix that. So there's some room in there, but with your vow, you don't just have to give it the way that we gave it. And then you can also expand. And this is something that it happened when I was leading a private workshop for Kristen Sweeting Morelli of the Red Tent. And we're in the middle of going through giving up the right to emasculate men forever. And she turned to me right on the stage and said, well, could we give up the right to emasculate women too? And I was like, well, sure, we diminish women's ability to produce results all the time. Why not? And she goes, well, and could we give up the right to emasculate ourselves? And I burst into tears. Like, oh my gosh, it's so much easier for me to give up the right to diminish a man's ability to produce results than to diminish my own ability to produce results. Like, that was so much harder to give up the right to emasculate myself. And so I just invite you, you can customize and you can also expand. I give up the right to emasculate men forever. I give up the right to emasculate women forever. I give up the right to emasculate myself forever. And if you go back and look at the list of how we emasculate men, we do all of those same things to ourselves, including we ignore ourselves.
So what about when men feel criticized or they feel defensive, no matter how you say it? Like if you use the word seems, but they still get defensive. But how do you speak when they're in defense? Like, I love the point in the book you say, men can't protect you if they feel like they're needing to protect themselves from you, right? That's a really beautiful point. And also, if they're in defense mode and no matter what we say, we're trying to communicate our truth or like give them feedback, and they're in that defense mode.
Well, I'm going to say two things. One is what to do is yet in the Queen's Code. And you'll get to see interactions between Kimberly and Jack, between Karen and Mike, between Claudia and Bert. You'll get to see interactions with them that really, their clarifications and their corrections. But they're all conducted in a way that doesn't call up defensiveness because there is no attack in it. And in the case you're asking about, Paige, I would recommend that you stop. Don't keep going in the direction you're going because it's not going to turn out. Just go stop. I must have said something or in a way that had you feel like you had to defend yourself. So must have occurred like an attack. And I apologize for that. Could we just stop here and like go to our own spaces and reset, and maybe later today or tomorrow or next week come back together and I will have found a better way to express this. So you're not giving up what you need. You're just not continuing down a road that's going to make everything worse. Once a man is back on his heels, it's very hard to recover it.
Yeah, and in the book you talk about how it's never a win to emasculate a man, and the answer is to give their power back. And I want to touch on this because there's an element of like terror in women when you say give them more power when they're already twice our size, muscle mass, everything else. They're overpowering us. And then you say, now give this person more power. I love it. And I also think that it terrifies a lot of women. And when people are reading this, like, I don't see how I could do that without giving someone that is already trying to dominate or whatever more power. Does that make sense? Or that's the feedback that I've gotten.
It does make sense, but what we're doing here is getting under what would activate another person's dominance reaction. And because that's a fight response and it comes from fear. So we don't recognize how much of what men do is from fear. And they don't seem like they ought to be afraid, and they certainly shouldn't be afraid of us. But as you go along in the Queen's Code, you're going to find out, like Karen was flabbergasted, men, and Kimberly, men need us. Men need us. oh my gosh, do men need us? And it makes them exposed. So if somebody's always trying to dominate you, I would lock them out of your life. Like, no, we're not going to interact this way anymore. I'm interested in partnership. I'm not going to do this shtick you're doing anymore. But if a good person reacts in a what occurs like a dominating way, like they're just trying to squash a bug, it's a good invitation to step back and go, whoa, honey, what did I say? What did I do just now that I don't even know? And then put the imaginary duct tape over your mouth and wait. And you might find out that there's this word that you use that you had no idea was striking at the heart of his identity, the heart of his self, the heart of who he is, that he is. And that that he heard that as an accusation of not being what he holds himself to account for. And we don't traffic in this in normal life. We don't understand how committed people are, how dedicated people are, how much we keep offending and hurting their good intentions, the things we accuse them of trying to do and meaning to do. It's crushing to them.
I love that. You said at the beginning, there's this no room for, the price is giving up righteousness, and the opposite of righteousness is this humility that you're talking about, and then this curiosity that you bring in with like, whoa, like I'm admitting that I may have been in the wrong, and I am curious, like what's there for you, right? It's really beautiful.
And even if you don't, it's fine if you don't want to say wrong. You can just go, wow, that clearly didn't work. Taking it back is amazing. I take it back. Whatever that did to you, I don't ever want that to happen to you. I take it back. I'll find another way to express myself.
Love it.
Then just wait while he recovers his breath.
Yeah, I love that. It's so beautiful. Kim, Rich, do you want to ask your question? And then I have another question for Alison. Kimberly,
and I'd love to know who else who's here live has a question, because that's a priority for me. You're here.
Yeah,
you have a question.
Sure.
Can you raise your hand?
Sure.
Can you raise your hand if you have a question?
Yeah,
go ahead. Calls on me, so I'm gonna go ahead.
Oh yeah, you go ahead and go, but I want other people to take the reactions part of Zoom to raise it. It says raise hand, and it shows up right in the screen as raised hand, and it puts you actually in order. And then I'll know so I can pace myself better instead of long answers, because we have all the time in the world. Okay, where Kimberly? Do you go by Kimberly or Kim?
Either one's fine. Yeah, Kim is fine. So I don't actually know if this is a Queen's Code question or if this belongs in an Amazing Development of Men course. So bear with me. But
if it's a stage of development, it's probably that, but I might be able to make it into this. So just tell me what it is.
I love it. So my question is how to maintain genuine admiration and not fake it when you're interacting with a man who's in a period of transition and they're very insecure, unfocused, scattered, and in their feelings more than, when they're in a more confident hunter sort of phase of life. And inside the body, I feel less attracted.
Yeah, I got your question. So keep going. It has to do with the language of heroes.
Got it. Okay.
No matter what stage of development they're in, the language of heroes is honoring and supportive.
Awesome.
And then you could end up with responses and behaviors that you find more admirable. And as compared to the ideal woman, or as compared to the perfect person, based on an idealized woman, however you want to, we talk about it both ways around here, it is very difficult to admire men because we're looking for a more perfect woman. And so we'll end up not admiring men, and we'll think it's because they're not admirable. And admiration is a huge part of love, of experiencing love. Respect, admiration, and affinity, I would assert, actually determine how much love we can be present to. And sometimes there are things to go hunting for, like what's admirable about this man? Even what's admirable about this man in this moment? What's admirable about this man in what he's going through? And how many of you think that chewing tobacco is admirable? Anybody think chewing tobacco is admirable? Probably nobody. Well, I don't know how long Dan has used chewing tobacco. He doesn't even know. But over last June, I gave him a year's notice that there was no way I could wrap my head around chewing tobacco being part of a healthy diet and lifestyle, which I require to be with me. And so I said, next June, the runway is going to be done. There will be no more runway for this. And so he's now like, I think he's going on 6 weeks of being free of chewing tobacco. And he's doing things to deal with being free of chewing tobacco. And, so I could razz him for the weight that he's gained, or the ways he's gone off the reservation in the very healthy diet he had until he just got into this phase of giving this up. But what's the point of that? He's doing something extremely difficult, and he's doing it to be with me. So I just keep calling attention to what he's accomplishing. And like in front of his kids, you guys, as of today, it's been a month. Your dad hasn't had chew. And they're like, yay! He's getting celebrated for this thing that he's going through, not for that he isn't going through it like some perfect person. And we have to look for what's admirable. We have to look for, okay, so they're not doing that, but what do I respect him for? And we do a lot of work on this throughout our curriculum, especially in something called Dating with Distinctions, because people think chemistry is black or white, and it is or it ain't. And they're going to look for it and not live without it. But it's actually caused by the perception of strength. And we can cause ourselves to have just as much chemistry you want to have by hunting for strength. What else is strong about this man? How else is he strong? How else is he strong? How is he strong? In the middle of the tunnel, how is he being true to himself? In the middle of the tunnel, how is he in integrity? In the middle of the tunnel, how is he showing he cares for me? We're going to find whatever we're hunting for. It's the way the mind works.
We get more of what we focus on.
Well, we can't not. The mind has to screen out. There's too much input. It has to screen out. And our conclusions and our intentions set the screening. So some of our conclusions, we do a lot of release work around here because we're hunting for the lamest stuff. Like men are jerks. You can get all the evidence you want from men are jerks. All you have to do is go hunting for it, and your brain will screen out anything contrary to that.
That's for sure. I have years of experience in that, just so you know. Roxanne, do you want to go? I know she has a great question for you.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
So I have been involved in, I call it dating, but he doesn't call it dating because, he's at this point where, because of a very difficult history in the past with dating and lots of emasculation over and over and over, that he's given up on the prospect of ever being in a committed relationship again. And yet we have this beautiful play and dance and love, and it's almost like this awakening, and he comes to the edge and he pulls back. And so it's like I don't know if this is probably going to come in with the hero's language, but I guess my question has to do with the long-term effects of emasculation and how you can help to inspire a man to come back to all that he truly is, and to really show up when he's showing that this is what he wants, yet he's terrified. He's reacting from fear, shutting down, in many ways. So yeah, I can keep going, but I'd love to hear you.
There's a world in what you just asked me. First of all, commitment is very serious and complex for men. And there are 12 things that we've identified that make someone the right person to commit to. And it's all the way, there's 2 prerequisites for being able to take that course. It is part of the what we call the Mega U package. It's called Understanding Love and Commitment. So commitment isn't just because there's love and wonderful times together. There are a whole bunch of other things that indicate that a long-term commitment would be a smart thing to do. And one of them being that he thinks he can give you what he thinks you need. And that's probably going to be one of your biggest battles, because it's not what you need, it's what he thinks you need. And men decide what women need from a lot of different sources, and it's not usually from asking and believing what she says. So if commitment is critical to you, and having a commitment is more important to you than having him, then I would let him go, because this will be a long process. On the other hand, if you're committed to being with him, you can commit to being with him at any moment. At any moment, a woman or a man can start spending the rest of their life with another person. It's a place to come from. It's not based on some ceremony or certain words. It's a place to come from. And most men know that this is someone who could be that person for them. They honestly know it somewhere between 30 seconds and 3 minutes of meeting her. They're so much more perceptive than we think. So the fact that he keeps coming back, and how consistent you are. So depending on a man's temperament and what's happened in his past, he will need to see that you keep being the person he hopes you are. And some men, they just need a week of it. And then let's go to Las Vegas. I know a man who had to live with a woman for 2 years, one of my graduates, someone who used to work for me. And then one day he finally said, "You really are who you say you are." But it took 2 years of evidence and consistency for him to figure out that she was not his exes. She was not who had left him crushed and trashed. But he needed that much of a track record before he had enough confidence. So I would recommend just keep going in the Queen's Code, and you're going to learn a bunch of words and pick words to focus on and to employ consistently and get good at and be trustworthy for doing that. And then pick another one, and then pick another one. Kimberly and Karen are going to be using all of them. We put, I'm going to say something very bad. Can I say something very bad?
Absolutely.
We put too much stock in commitment. We think that once somebody makes a commitment, now we're good to go. And it's not true. That commitment has to be expressed and honored and nurtured and lived up to day after day after day after day, or it falls apart. But most of us want to feel secure. We want to believe that everything's going to be okay no matter what. And it's unrealistic, but people want to do it anyway. But I'm committed to the way of relating that is taught in the Queen's Code. And it takes being wide awake. It takes never taking anything for granted, including commitment.
I think a big point too is like, can we heal, or can we help a man to heal from the long-term effects of emasculation in a different relationship with us, or can our partners help us heal faster and easier from the effects from former, or is the healing just ours to do and we can't expect to go into like be with a man who's been emasculated for years and years and be the one to heal them from that?
I don't think we can heal people. I think we can facilitate healing. And I've done a lot of work distinguishing things that do that. But from working on this for about 40 years, someone has to have the will to heal. And without the will to heal, nothing works. With the will to heal, almost everything works. And it's why, I mean, in our Smart Singles program, we have lists. And the lists are literally, I'd rather be alone than be with someone who wasn't this. And at the top of my list, it says committed with determination to being whole and free. Provides and receives restoration. And early on, you know, Dan and I met when my husband had died about 1.5 years before. And early on, I didn't know if this was going to work or not. I still had so much emotion about Greg dying, and he had so many wounds about his marriage that had ended in divorce about 8 years earlier. But it was awesome because he said, you know, I can't heal you from losing Greg, and you can't heal me from what happened in my marriage. But we can be together while we heal ourselves.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. That's so beautiful. Well, KJ, we're going to go to you next, and then Stacia, and then Glenn. So we've got 3 questions.
Okay. KJ, then Stacia. Okay, good. Stacia's in first position on my screen, so I keep being worried about her being bypassed.
We will not skip Stacia. We can do Stacia first if you'd like. That was
okay, good. I could stop worrying about it.
Yeah, we're good. We got 3 more big questions. So
all right, Stacia.
Hi. I think my question stems around I think you said we have to give up the ability to be righteous, I think is what you said, or something like that.
No, I was wondering if to give up being righteous.
Give up being righteous. Okay. I was wondering if you could define the term righteous, then what that means for you, and give some examples of what that looks like. I have grown up in a faith that I guess the paradigm is that's what we try to be, right? We try to be righteous. We try to do what is right. We try to all these things. And so I guess I'm struggling in understanding what that means for you, what the definition is, and also some examples of what that looks like.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. Because I definitely don't mean just throw out the window being in alignment with God, or spirit or faith, or I don't mean that. My whole life is faith-based. What I mean, you could call it self-righteous. That what I know is, what I see is true, what I know to be right is in fact right, that what I'm doing is right and what you're doing is wrong, what I think is right and what you think is wrong, how I express myself is right and how you express yourself is wrong. This is the right way to load the dishwasher. This is the right way to make the bed. This is the right way to comfort a child. This is the right way to be in every situation. These are the right things to prefer. Preferences. I've been uprooting the righteousness in my preferences. I haven't understood why people would eat toast without spreading the butter all the way to the edges. It makes no sense to me. So this morning I tried it. I like consciously didn't take that little piece of butter and spread it out to the very corner just to see, did it turn out all right? So we want to be so sure of our convictions. And in this case, that men are jerks, men are uncaring, men are beasts, men are uncivilized, men deserve to be regulated and punished and their power diminished. We're that kind of righteousness. These are bad people and anything we do to them is fair game. And that kind of righteousness. What if they're not? What if they have valid points of view? What if they have valid and even beautiful motivations? What if they can see things that we can't? What if the things that they care about that seem stupid to us, if we were willing to look closer, we'd find out at the heart of the matter, they have something that really does matter? What if? What if how I see the world and life isn't the be all end all? What if it's an incomplete picture? What if it's in every situation, there's an elephant and I've only got the tail? That's what I mean. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking. Okay, now it's KJ.
Cool. Am I off mute? You can hear me okay?
I can.
Perfect. Well, this has just already been so transformational. I think I need to do all of your courses. I'm single, early 30s, and I would consider myself very successful in business. And so this has just been really awesome and eye-opening, and I am dating. And in the past week, I've been asked out like more times than in the past 5 months or something. So it's been amazing. I'm like, oh my gosh, radiate or something. I don't even know.
I'm not surprised.
So fun.
Yeah.
And I've been observing a lot, and I'd love 2 helps that maybe I need to do, like I said, all of your courses, because I am single and a lot of that resonated for me. But the first 2 would be how to decline dates or attention. I'm in a smaller town, kindly and not emasculating. So how to decline well. And then how to talk business and finances, where I'm often more successful than a lot of the guys I'm talking to by numbers wise, without emasculating them.
Great questions.
They are questions. They're not, I mean, I love that you're looking at the masculation part. I do, I love it. And I want to speak to the all your courses part. Okay. So can I tell them, give them a peek, Paige?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So where this started was Paige wants to get me live in person. And and I only do that when I get to do the kind of work that requires live in person. And the kind of work that requires live in person is very advanced. So we're exploring this, and what we're hoping is that enough of you, and even enough people who aren't here right now, that's okay, they can catch up, will want to participate in a version of this with the breakout groups and the mastermind of something in our world that we call Mega You, which is a package of, it's 88 hours of videos and involves a lot of interacting with me. And we would even have extra interaction, like in this context of the mastermind. And it's at a deep discount when it's packaged all that way. So, so further along the line, Paige and I will work out more details and we'll let you know about that. But I just want you to know, if for now, stick with this. Stick with this. It'll serve you well to just stick with this. Even if you get antsy pants about diving into our curriculum or aspects of our curriculum. Okay, just for that part.
Already been a blessing.
Okay, good. So, and I love that you care about not emasculating. I love it. And I'm going to insert in here the principle of everything that comes after, and that is, and it's for men and women both, honor yourself first or all is lost. So if you're paying more attention to how to take care of them than how to be true to you, we're in trouble. So your clarity about you, your clarity about your dating, what are you dating for? What's the point of you dating? And if somebody's going to be whatever the point of you dating is in your life, who do they need to be for you to be better off being with that person than being single? And I mean, we sacrifice everything to couple but that's instinct. That's literally herd and pack instinct. And the cost is so high. And it made sense when the price was survival. We needed to couple to survive. We don't anymore. So let's stop acting as if we do. And so like in the domain of money and finance, it's for you to first think for yourself. How do I need a man to be about money, to think about money, to behave with money, for me to be better off with him than without him? And it's going to end up in the domain of that I would respect, that I would admire, that I would like you as that way. I was a pauper when I met my husband. So funny when I think about it. But when he died and I realized I wanted to be in a romantic relationship, what I put on my list was, we don't need each other's money. There's room for play, presents, gifts, treating, co-creation. Like, I mean, that's all I wanted. And my boyfriend has so much more money than I do. But our default is Dutch. Our default is we go Dutch. We go on vacations Dutch. We're chartering a sailing catamaran Dutch. But that's our default is Dutch. And it just keeps it squeaky clean. And I live in his backyard, not in a tent, but I insisted upon paying rent. He's like, I don't want rent from you. I said, let me tell you why you do and why I want you to take it. Now, the rent is minuscule compared to what he could rent this place for, but it keeps it clean. And then I even increased it for utilities, so I wouldn't be worried about heating it as much as I want. But then we'll say, can I thank you for what you did by taking you to lunch? Or, you want to come to dinner with the kids? It's my treat. Like, we keep it very, very clean and clear. And this is what works for us. But we're also people in our 60s who know that what we built in our lives, I want it to go to my 3 children. He wants his to go to his 3 children. And the only thing I want in the will is if he dies, his kids won't kick me out of the backyard too soon. Like, can I have like 6 months to a year to get myself out of the backyard? He's so cute, so funny. So you have a lot of work to do with you before you open your mouth. And if you just state what you're looking for, what you need, what you require for someone to be with you in terms of how they be and think and behave about money, and your intention isn't to diminish them, they may say they were emasculated. Like, shit, I'm intimidated by you. Well, if a man is intimidated by you, he's not the right man for you. That is the beginning and end of that. If someone says they're intimidated by you, do not try to make them feel better. Because if they think they can't win, they won't even try to win. So of course they won't win, right? Is this making sense?
Yes. I went on mute. I didn't want background noise, but yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And so I'm watching because I still might need my 3 minutes for this other one. But and then as far as saying no to somebody asking you out or asking for your number, I'd tell you to be true to yourself. Like, thank you, I'm honored, but I'm not feeling it. Or if that's what's true, or I'm not ready to go there with you. I'm still working on figuring out what I want. So I don't even know if you and I could be a fit, because I got to figure out what a fit is. And after I figure that out, if I think you're a possibility, I'll reach out.
Yeah.
Way to do it. It's just there, as long as there's no put down in it. Like, who the hell are you to think you could ask for my number? It's tacky. You don't have to be that way. You can be gracious, but don't cave. No pity dates. No, it was harder to say no to him than yes. So here I am on this date I don't want to be on. In the old days, when I was young, washing your hair was a really big deal, like a huge deal, right? And so it'd be like, no, I'd rather wash my hair.
I love it.
But they'd actually say that. That was all right. Good enough for now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, it's Glenn's turn.
Yikes. I had a comment when Roxanne had a question in your answer. I liked how the answer went, but I feel like from a guy's point of view, and I also have a question about KG Buckingham too. So 2 things came up.
Okay,
but I was going to respond to.
Hold on 1 second. You guys get to be in pods and whatnot, but this is my only chance to be with you. So if you have feedback for them, could you please deliver it separately? And then
that's what I thought. That's what I was going to go to. That's what I was going to ask. So it was kind of like, yeah. So my question has been answered already, but that's what I had my hand up for. So yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much. That'll work great.
Awesome. I know Julia's had a few questions today. So can we hop over to her?
Yes, I have no idea where she is because her hand's not up, but feel free to hop over to her.
She's good. She's on.
Okay. Oh, hi, Julia. Oh, yes, I've seen the looks on your face. I'm so glad you're speaking now. What can I do for you?
Okay, well, I submitted this to Paige online, and I just will say it now because she's given me the time. One of the things that I've thought through as we've read chapter 3 is I was very triggered at first, as many were, on the terms castrate and emasculate. It felt very harsh to me, and I felt all those feelings of defensiveness and like, wait a minute, I've been wronged here too. And so, but as I've massaged these principles, I've recognized where I emasculate and gone through the list and really pondered and let it come to the surface. So my question is this: how do we, as we're going through the process of really wanting so badly to not emasculate, to have new behaviors, to behave better ourselves, to feel better in our own skin, and not emasculate ourselves or our male counterparts or female counterparts, because I started seeing how I do that in many situations. But my neural pathways from a lifetime of doing these behaviors, I recognize that my brain is so conditioned. It has these neural pathways. It's got habits and patterns. And I want so much to be successful at this new life, this new way of being. But I recognize the challenge, and I feel resistant whenever I really try to not emasculate or try to say things in a new way. There's a lot of resistance. My brain just gets all confused because it's driven a certain way. What are some tools to help me be better and for it to feel more easy, to feel more comfortable, more at peace, than feel so resistant and knots in my stomach trying so hard to do this new behavior?
Yes. Okay, just have to say something. And Paige, I think some people model you. Most men could not follow that question all the way to the end. Just saying. Women have a different ability to deal with details and sides and nuances and whatnot than men do. And this is one of the ways that we lose them. And then we think they don't care about us. And just saying it's something to work on. They call it getting to the point, because I could have answered your questioning as soon as you said neural pathways. I could have answered your question. And this is for everybody. You were thorough. You did great. And I love what you're committed to. So I love neuroscience. My husband was passionate about it. And we started employing neuroscience in our workshops. It would have been about 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. And so you'll see it if you decide to come do the videos or the thing Paige and I are putting together. You'll see in our Understanding Men course, which is it's a partnership to the Queen's Code. We thought the Queen's Code would replace that course, and it turned out to not. And what you'll see is when we're talking about emasculating men, a woman will say one of the ways that she emasculates men. And as they say it, I'm like, okay, who else emasculates men that way? I do. And we're like, yay, you noticed. I noticed. And we call it the I noticed dance. And what's normal is to notice a behavior that we don't want anymore. And then we castigate ourselves. It's self-recrimination. We treat ourselves as if we're misbehaving. What if there's a good reason for it? Everything men do? What if there's a good reason for everything you do? What if they're not misbehaving? And what if you're not misbehaving? Right? You have a really good reason for the things that we do. And I'm not trying to take it away. It just isn't going to get us where we want to get. So the thing to do with your brain when you want to change behavior is when you notice the behavior, You literally have to give cheers to your brain. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We noticed that. We noticed that. Oh, good brain. Good brain. We noticed it. I don't care if it's in the middle of emasculating a man, a day later, a week later, a month later, or you're seeing now 5 years ago. Oh, that's what happened. I emasculated him. We noticed. We noticed. So neuroscience has shown that anything that we approach with passion and determination, it will rewire itself to produce. And we don't have any choices until we notice. That's the beginning of choice, is awareness. So the first thing to celebrate is, I noticed. Oh my gosh, I noticed. And here's the thing. We have men, we have been emasculating for decades, and they're still here. They didn't go away. Have they been shut down? Are they less open? Are they giving less? Yes, but they're still here. Why? Because they care that much, because they need us that much, because they're not fragile. They put themselves back together and they come back in. So at any point that you're like, whoa, I think I'm emasculating you. And I'm noticing. Yeah, I'm feeling myself shrinking over here. I notice my crossed legs. Oh, okay. Well, I'm working on the noticing part now. It's awesome to be paying attention to it. I love everything that you said. I just had to put the pin in, for most men couldn't have hung in there, but everything you said, Julia, I loved how you're making yourself go into it and work through it, and how you committed you are to this. I could kiss your cheeks. And the place to start is with noticing. And the other thing I would say is, in terms of figuring out a better way to say things, just stay tuned. Chapter 4 is a better way to say things. Chapter 5 is a better way to say a lot of things about sex. Chapter 6 is another better way to say things. Chapter 7 is 2 more better ways to say things. So you don't have to invent the better ways to say things. Often our better ways of saying things aren't any less emasculating. And I know, because I still fall into it. And the first weekend that Dan and I met each other, he was driving, and I was worried how close he was to the right line. And because there's a ditch on the other side of the white line at the right side of the road. And I was trying to figure out a way to change that wouldn't be emasculating. And oh my gosh, I mean, we talked on the phone a lot, and we've already committed to exploring this, but how do I say it? And I said, is there a reason why you drive so close to the right side? That was the best I could come up with. I was anguishing over this for, I don't know, probably 15 minutes. And he said, that sounded a lot like criticism. And I stopped taking that a long time ago. And I was ecstatic that he said that. Yay. And then I burst into tears. Oh my God, the Alison Armstrong criticized man. His old dog was sitting in the front seat, so I was sitting in the back seat, and I'm just crying and crying, and like, okay, what was that? Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. And I was afraid. He goes, what? I said, I was scared we were going to end up in the ditch. And then he's done all kinds of things to train his brain after like a dozen concussions by the time he was 20 years old. Yay, playing hockey. And so he's tapping the steering wheel. Going, when she sounds like that, she's scared. When she sounds like that, she's scared. When she sounds like that, she's scared. And I like, oh my gosh, this man is learning me. He goes, so how about next time that happens, I remember that you're scared, and I ask you what you're scared of. And I said, well, as quick as you're already showing yourself to be, you probably will have figured out the few things I'm scared of by then. And he kind of chuckles. And I said, and how about I just say I'm scared? Well, that'd be good. And so it was like a couple months later, he was in the middle of talking about something. He was following very closely. And I was trying to figure out, again, just the same neural pathway of some nice way to ask him to back off. And then I remembered what really happened. I said, I'm scared you're too close to that car and you're going to hit it. I just had to own it, right? I just had to own it. I'm scared you're going to hit that car. He drives safer than I do, by the way. And he knows that I know that. And I compliment him a lot on that. And I know a man who said the first time his wife apologized for emasculating him was second only to the birth of his daughter. And men, when they find out we're engaged in this, most of them are just grateful, just in awe that we're that committed, that we would do this and try to figure out how to reach better and be kinder. The thing is amazing. And so they don't hold us to our standards of perfection. And as you go, Claudia will coach you in this, what to do when you've discovered you emasculated somebody, and what to say and what to do and what to not do. Do not mother them. As one man said, they are my balls. I do not need you to band-aid them back on. I will take care of them. Just stop. Can you see it?
So I don't know if we're going to do this in the pods, but I'm also wondering if this is something that we're going to do now as far as the commitment. But my question around that is when we're committing, I now give up the right to emasculate men. Do men say, I now give up the right to objectify women? Or is this like a,
this is my 3 minutes. And okay, I know good. We're at the bottom of the hour. So I'm going to say this and then I'm going to dash.
Perfect.
So in the Queen's Code, emasculation and objectification are contrasted because they both cause rage or fury. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, objectification is a form of emasculation. Yeah. What a jerk. Or the voice in my head, Alison, you're such an idiot. Objectification is a form of emasculation. So you don't have to commit to it separately. Just make your commitment and don't say now. We don't need a now. You may have to make this commitment. I don't even know how many times I've made this commitment. I give up the right to emasculate men forever. I give up the right to emasculate women forever. I give up the right to emasculate myself forever. And from time to time, you re-up. It's like wedding vows. And just like wedding vows, it's a commitment to live out of, not a commitment to live up to and judge yourself harshly by. That's just another way of diminishing yourself. Remember, in the very beginning, regrets are fine, no self-recrimination. That also applies to emasculation. Paige, I gotta go.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alison.
You all are awesome. Keep going. So many of the things you're wondering, they're already in the book. They're already there. All right, I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Monica, I'm going to actually read this because I think it's great. But everyone, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording, and I appreciate you being on here today.